welcome to the XRT Build Series, where we have all the upgrades. We're just gonna strip it. There's gonna be no stock stuff left. Let's just get rid of it. Who needs it? We already know we're gonna break it, so we may as well just upgrade it. This thing is the coolest RC I own. This thing is huge. Luckily, because this thing has been on the market for a little while, we know what some of the things are that break, like the gearing. So we gotta upgrade that. We got some Vitavon, we got some M2C, we got some Traxxas, some Hobby Wing. We're gonna kit this thing out. We're gonna start 8S, and then we're gonna go 12S. All of these upgrades, we're gonna do a build series. Each one needs its own segment, from the gearing, the suspension, all the electronics, all the other bits and pieces. They need their own video. And then when we're ready, we're gonna send it. So before I talk about all the parts, why the heck is this on my kitchen counter? Well, clearly, as you can see, it takes up the entire kitchen counter. And because we can barely fit it on my workbench. Like, that is huge, okay? This is also pretty big, but it's nowhere near enough space. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do bits at a time. I think that's the best way to approach this. So if you were to do just the upgrades for the Ultimate, you'd be looking at the standard Traxxas upgrades, which is like the knuckles and the hubs, the toe links, steering bell crank, and that's pretty sweet. I think they also do like the shock caps, the stronger rods, and you'll get like a stronger servo, but it's still not going to be as badass as this build. Because, as you can clearly see, we have a ton of Vitavon. Now, there's some M2C in here because they make some good parts as well. And there's some hidden things like some Hobby Wing and some GPM. As you know, and most of my trucks are all Vitavon'd out with a little bit of M2C and other brands and whatnot. Fly Sky, that's how we do most of our builds. And they make some pretty good freaking parts. All the parts I run, I haven't had an issue with. I don't break my chassis, I don't break any of the knuckles. They make some really good solid parts. So that's why we're heavy on the Vitavon. Like, to put this in perspective, like these drive shafts are the size of my freaking forearm. Spline drives. Ho, ho, ho. These are gonna be amazing. They're thicker, they're stronger. So like this whole section here is really about gearing. So we got front, center, and rear gearing with the covers, the cover plates, some different gearing over here as well. So we're gonna make this thing go super fast. We got some options. I haven't driven an XRT, I haven't driven an MAXX, but it's so clear by everybody on the internet, the gearing is a problem. Typically when you jump, the chassis flexes, and well, you gotta stiffen it up. So we got the front upper and the front rear bulkhead, as well as some more upper mount bracing. So these things are gonna help stiffen the chassis in the places it needs it, as well as the parts that need to flex. We're gonna have that from M2C. So it's a mix and match of different brands here, but we picked the best of the best. Stuff like this, you know, we're gonna add a decent amount of weight. Like, it's not gonna be crazy, that much more heavier than this, but it will be a bit heavier. So we have to get some stiffer springs, and Vitavon certainly does that. We're gonna do the shock rods, but I don't like these plastic bits, but I love these standoffs. I think that's what you call them. But anyway, I have them on my sledge and they're amazing. It's a weak spot typically in big trucks like this or big jumps. You know, the shocks are taking the abuse, so we want to build them up. And of course, GPM makes some really solid hinge pins and all the pins that need to go in, because that's a pretty common thing to break in big trucks. So we're going to do that as well. This is where it gets really exciting. As you may know, the servo is in the bottom of the truck, okay? And well, we needed to upgrade it. So we got a 55 kg servo, and we love them from AGFRC. They make some pretty badass servos, and I put them in all of my builds. So we're gonna rock that along with some Basher battery packs, 4S 120C. And we're gonna run that standard okay, with the Hobby Wing MAXX 5 and the 1100 kV motor for most of all the driving. I think that's gonna do the trick. But you know how we do, and we're gonna make this thing 12S. So I got a special video coming for the 12S. There's a reason behind it, not just because, well, kind of just because, but there's a video I wanna do and we need that power. So 12S coming, which means we're gonna go with an 800 kV motor after, which is on its way before a different video. But man, this thing is going to rip. This thing is so big and so heavy. This is probably the main weight that we're gonna be adding to the build, because the XRT is well balanced already. So as you know, we got the standard electronics 8S in there. It looks pretty badass with the V-shaped fans on there. Certainly looks good. But to fit this system in here, we've got to do some rearranging. And well, we got some motor mounts for that. And there's one more piece that I'm waiting on from PMW, so we can move the ESC up and then we can move the receiver box down. So that's gonna look pretty sweet when it's all in there. And I have to say, these bodies are pretty nice, man. I'm just such a fan of the way this thing sits. I cannot wait to drive this. And it even gets better with these J Concepts chopper wheels. Oh my God, these things are amazing. Beadlock, beautiful, beautiful tires. And they're literally the size of my hands. I just have to say, this is quite the collection of parts. This has probably cost me about $5,000 here, okay? I'm in Canada, so in US it'd be a little less, but man, this shit ain't cheap. So, special shout out to BC Hobbies for supporting local bashers. They hooked me up with this XRT and some of the Traxxas parts, which I'm super stoked on. Go support your local hobby shop. And I just want to shout out Vitavon because they do a good job of making parts, and I run them on a lot of my builds, as well as M2C, because you guys already know they make badass parts. So we're going to get this on the bench and start wrenching so that, you know, we can go drive this. It's probably going to be a better part of a week for me to do this build series, so hang tight. Coming at ya. If you want to just skip forward to the driving, we'll probably pop a video link here so you can just go watch us bash it. But until then, stay tuned on this playlist because it'll be the next video playing for each part of the upgrades, and then we're gonna go drive it. So stay tuned. Sunday!